in a second. But first, Governor Hochul was at a news conference here this evening calling it a day of terror for the students, the 40 students and 4 adults on board that bus this afternoon. She says that 5 to 6 of them, the students, remain in critical condition tonight, fighting for their lives. Meanwhile, as Sarah mentioned, we now know that 2 of the adults on board that bus have died, and state police giving their identities shortly, just a short while ago during a news conference, identifying the victims as 77-year-old Beatrice Ferrari of Farmingdale and 43-year-old Gina Pelletier from Massapequa. Pelletier is listed as a music teacher at Farmingdale High who was in charge of the band and apparently accompanied them each year to band camp in Pennsylvania. It was a place where student musicians could practice before performing at football games throughout the school year. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman also here at the news conference this evening, saying that the students left this morning expecting a weekend of fun and camaraderie with their friends. No one foreseeing the day would end like this.
The only advice I can give to anybody tonight is hug your children very tight. Life is very precious, and our kids started out today thinking they were going to have a wonderful weekend with their friends, and unfortunately these things happen. But if it wasn't for the people behind me and all that they did, we would have lost more.
And again, we now know that a music teacher from Farmingdale High, the one who led the band, was accompanying them to this band camp, as she apparently does every year, was one of the people who died in this tragedy today. Now, the Orange County Community College is being used as a reunification building, we're told, for some of the people on board that bus that crashed. It's in the Diana Physical Education Building. Meanwhile, students were told from the other 5 buses, because this was an entourage of 6 buses in all, are being taken directly back to Farmingdale so they can, of course, be reunited with their anxious families tonight. We're live in Middletown. Checky Beckford, News 4, New York.
Checky, thank you. Those injured in the crash rushed to 6 separate hospitals, the most serious flown to Westchester Medical Center. We know that students on other buses who were traveling with the caravan were taken to SUNY Orange County Community College. That's in Middletown, where News 4's Chris Jose joins us. And Chris, I understand counselors were on hand to meet them as they arrived.
Right, Natalie, and just moments ago, the Nassau County executive showed up here to the campus of SUNY Orange. You can see some police officers here in the background. They're really using this building right now as a staging area. You mentioned the uninjured children involved in the crash. They did meet with grief counselors earlier this afternoon. Those students, by the way, on the way back to Long Island. Have a look at this video. Earlier this evening, we saw those 5 other charter buses take off with a police escort. These buses were part of the caravan carrying band members from Farmingdale High School en route to band camp in Pennsylvania. Some of those students in touch with their classmates back home, telling them what they witnessed. The governor in the last hour alluding to not only what the kids experienced on the bus that careened 50 feet down a ravine, but also what those kids on the 5 other buses witnessed. Again, 5 buses now headed back to Farmingdale. On those buses, the uninjured students. You mentioned the reunification center. That's set up here on the campus of SUNY Orange. We haven't seen too many parents show up here. We did see a couple parents show up here, but did not leave with any children. We'll be out here throughout the evening and have the very latest tonight at 11. For now, reporting live on the campus of SUNY Orange, Chris Jose, News 4 New York.
Chris, while we talk about these parents and what they must be going through, parents of the students on the other buses anxiously waiting to pick up their children at Farmingdale High School on Long Island. That's where News 4's Melissa Colorado continues our team coverage at this hour. Melissa, what are you seeing? What are you hearing there?
Well, Natalie, I mean, you can feel it. It is a somber mood out here. We're starting to see parents start to arrive here, anxious parents waiting for those 5 buses to arrive from Orange County, waiting to hug their students, hug their children. We know that these 5 buses that are arriving from Orange County, they're coming here to the high school. These 5 buses are packed with students who were not physically harmed. They were not physically involved in this crash. But you've got to imagine these students must be traumatized. They saw a bus filled with their classmates roll into that ravine. And now we are hearing the news that 2 adults did not survive. Among those victims, 48-year-old band director and music teacher Gina Pelletieri. And we are being told by someone who knew her that she was just loved by her students. The students were on their way to band camp, an annual weekend trip to Pennsylvania. According to the school's website, the camp is an opportunity for these student musicians to practice their performances for football games. More than 300 students typically attend the camp each year, and we spoke to parents, students, even a grandmother. They were all desperate to learn more about how their children, their students were doing when they heard the news that the bus carrying 40 students and 4 adults crashed in Orange County.
I called one of my grandkids and they answered they were on the first bus, but they're not injured. And then the little girl that's down the block from us, she's on another bus, but she's okay too. So, and my grandson's friend was one person who was airlifted, so I don't know if he's okay or not.
He said everyone's doing good. Everyone was calm and everyone's in good spirits. I don't know about the bus number 1. But he said there was a lot of ambulance.
They were telling me what happened, and like they showed me one of my friends, like her face was all bloody, and I started crying and stuff.
And again, the devastating news that music teacher, band director, 48-year-old Gina Pelletieri was one of 2 adults who died in the crash. The other victim, 77-year-old Beatrice Ferrari. We've learned she is a retired social studies teacher. As for the mood out here, the parents, they are arriving. You can probably see that behind me, the parking lot is starting to fill up with cars. They're just anxiously waiting for their children to arrive and give them a big hug as they get here home. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
I'm sure they're so ready for that as a parent myself, and I'm sure, Melissa, as you're out there on the scene with them, we understand how they feel. The News 4 I-Team's Chris Glorioso has been looking at the bus company's safety history. Chris, of course, a lot of the new information tonight, including possible faulty tire with this investigation.
Well, as we've been saying, state police are focusing on what they think may have been a faulty tire. But starting now, both state and federal investigators are sure to look at the entire maintenance history of this company's bus fleet. The owner of the motor coach, a company called Regency Buses, is based in Wisconsin, Long Island. We reached out to that company but did not immediately hear back. Regency's Facebook page does show pictures of a bus matching the one that crashed, and a social media post says this bus was just added to the fleet this summer. As for the bus company's safety record, federal inspectors have classified it as having a satisfactory record. Regency Buses does have 1 crash with an injury listed on its DOT record last year. Inspectors also accused 1 driver of falsely reporting work hours. As for the mechanical inspections, in the last 2 years, Regency vehicles have undergone 41 examinations. 17 of them resulted in maintenance violations, 2 of them involving emergency doors, 3 involving brakes. But again, this bus carrier has an overall satisfactory grade on safety. And a spokesman for New York's DOT says the driver of this particular bus is properly licensed. Reporting from the newsroom, Chris Glorioso, News 4 New York.
Chris, thank you. Our coverage of the charter bus crash continues on air on